Okay, so for this project, I ordered a whole bunch of stuff because I didn't know what color the gown was going to turn out to be. People tell you that their gowns are white or off-white, but there's so many variations, and yeah. And also, you can't really tell ahead of time what color things are going to be because I can't order anything in person anymore. COVID is so much fun. But anyway, these are all of the things that I have to work with. I'm probably not going to use these because they're too white. I might sell those on my Etsy because I can't imagine having a use for those. Actually, I could make these available for the skeleton project. That would be good. I wasn't sure if these would work either. I'm just realizing right now that because of the skeleton tutorial that I'm gonna do, anything I can't use for this project, I can use for that one. Oh yeah, and Pink says hi. These, I thought they looked cool in photos, but I don't think they'll work with the gold. These will be good. That crinkling is probably so loud for you. The crinkling seems to show up so much more intensely than my voice. I might use these. These are like really cool little kind of opal-y rhinestones. We'll see how those turn out. She specifically wanted a retro look, like a vintage, kind of an antique-y look, which is good that these are all this sort of off-white. And we're not going to go heavy. Hi, dear. Yeah, you're very cute. We're not going to go heavy on the rhinestones. We're just going to mix some in for sparkle. We don't want that. We're not going for like a high bling factor. Just to bring in a little bit of sparkle. She was very particular about having a sort of an elegant vintage look, and I really like these. These are flat back pearls in different sizes. I think these are going to be really pretty. And she really was gung-ho about the teardrop shape, so that's why I have so very many of those. There are probably way more than I need. These are good. Yeah, and you're good. And yeah, got lots of different sizes of these to work with. First thing I'll be doing is making up a little sampler. Sorry, the window's open. It's springtime now. Okay, let's try that again. The first thing I'll be doing is making up a little sampler to test things out. I've got this, I think this is 9 inches, this hoop. I really hope you can't hear that stupid guy on his motorcycle. So yes, I've got this 9-inch hoop and this illusion. And yum, yum, yum. This is actual fabric from the gown. Well, not from the gown. This is fabric of the gown that they sent for me to play with. It's hard to tell which is the right side. I guess that's the right side. The gown itself is here, which I've already showed you on the form. So I'm going to applique these on. I'll show you that process. Just applique parts of it onto the frame to play with shapes and images and kind of see what comes together. I can make this go further if I do it that way, because if I cut these out individually and then stitch them on to my practice, there's more room for mistakes. And instead of just like putting this whole piece into the hoop, I want it to go further so that I can have some room to experiment. So that'll be my next step. Maybe I'll use a bigger frame. Anyway, that's my next step. I'm going to stretch the illusion into my frame. Maybe it'll be a bigger frame than this. And then I'm going to cut these out carefully to create appliques so that I can do some test pieces with my array here. Right now, these are my rejects. And all of this will be included in my test. But as I go, some of this stuff might get rejected as well because maybe it's too big, or maybe it doesn't work together, or whatever. We'll just see. We'll see how it goes. I've shown you the inspiration images. I've shown you the gown. I have collected all the materials. So now it's organic, sort of a playful process as it slowly comes together. And I'll test some things out that'll get rejected, and I'll see some things that I really like that I can't even envision now. And from there, it'll be a slow refining of the process so that I can actually start beating onto the real gown. Okay, so the first step is going to be to trim everything out to make the appliques for this. I just want to make sure that I've got as much to play with as I can for this part. So I am going to time lapse that because you don't need to watch me trim things in real time. I'll start normal and you can hear my cat, and then I'll time lapse it because otherwise it's very boring. And these are the scissors I'm going to use. I've talked about these before. These are my little Henkel scissors, and they're insanely sharp and fantastic for that reason. And they're my favorite. These are my scissors for making appliques because they're wonderful. So I'll do some rough cuts first with these bigger scissors. These are my junk scissors. I'm surprised they even cut through this fabric. I just want to, I mean, these are practice pieces, right? Although I am demonstrating for you. You just want to get in close, but make sure you don't want to cut any of the threads in the stitching of the lace. No, Pam, you don't. And you don't want to cut to, like, the netting that involves the stitches too close. You want to make sure that you're keeping all of that intact. You know, right, Pink? Nope, I'm just trying to knock your reflector. That's the word I was looking for. I'm doing this one very carefully so that you can use it as a demonstration. But again, this is just a practice. It doesn't actually, for this part of it, I'm not going to be that fussy. I just want to do it well enough at this point because this doesn't have anything to do with the actual final gown. Okay, so I'm done trimming, more or less. Well enough for now. And Ping assumes if I'm speaking to her, so that's why we get this coming out. Hey, you. Yeah, you're very cute, but I'm not actually talking to you. Please don't mess with my reflector. Okay, so then I'm gonna pin this in place. Hard to tell the front from the back on this. Still not talking to you, babe. Although you're very cute. Yeah. You don't need that kind of reassurance, you know. No, one thing that we have, I just realized, I do need these to be somewhat snug to make it easier to work with. But since I won't be tambouring onto this, so it's not as crucial that it's perfect. I mean, I'm gonna make it as kind of snug as I can, but I'm just gonna be using traditional stitching on this and not tambour. I may end up wanting to use tambour, but at this point I'm just picturing traditional. So yeah. All right, now I'm going to use my invisible thread and stitch everything down. It's going to be, I'll show you a demonstration of the stitching. This stitching will be pulled out, sorry, not will, this won't, because again, this isn't real. But I would normally do it in a way where the stitching could be pulled out so that if I were making these into actual appliques. You can see there's demonstrations of this technique in the tutorial I did from Katie's dress, the silvery gray dress I did last summer. You don't have to use invisible thread. You could use thread that's the same color as the embroidery. I don't want it to show though. If you're confident your stitches will blend in, that's cool. Another time you would use this technique, I don't have a video of it, I don't think. I'll look back through my archives and see if I have an example where you would do this, because I definitely have done this to create appliques. It would be where you were using lace to build a pattern, like on the front of Kim's gown. That was, I had the pattern as in like, I drew the pattern pieces onto the fabric and then assembled the lace. This is just me plopping the appliques down, the lace down in no particular pattern. But if you wanted to use the lace to build a pattern like I did with Kim's dress, this is the way that you would go about it and stitch it all down onto your piece. And there's two different options at that point. You could do all your beading while it was flat, or you could bead it while it was on the form. We've talked about this before. I don't love beading when the gown is on the form. My stitches are getting a bit sloppy here. But again, I don't want this to take forever because it's just a practice piece while I figure out what I'm doing for my design. And considering how much she loves teardrop shaped pearls and stuff, she did pick, like, this lace will lend itself well to that. The point of stitching this down for our current needs is just to hold it well in place while we put all of our beads on, because it's very irritating if your lace is flopping around while you're trying to figure out how you want your beads to go. Didn't do a good job there. Now, another thing that with using the invisible thread on this, sorry, I just drank water, kind of went down weird. Another thing with using invisible thread on something like this, if you were using the lace to build an applique that you would then put on the gown, like Kim's, you wouldn't tie your knots in the back. You would tie your knots in the front and make sure that they were nice and snug, so that they wouldn't unravel, and then clip them relatively short, but you wouldn't clip them on the back, because we've all had those dresses or those pieces. These would become really, really itchy if they're poking into your skin, even the really soft stuff. And I don't want to irritate anybody's skin. And so they're not visible if they're on the front and they're on the outside. And I try to make sure none of my knots are going to be in a place where there's a lot of friction, say like under the arms or something, because then the same thing will happen. You don't want those knots rubbing on someone's bare skin on their arms or poking into the inside of the dress. Definitely think about your client's comfort. What happened there? Oh, irritation. There we go. In fact, if I were, well, yeah, it's hard to say. That would be a judgment call for your thread choice. If you thought that the knots would potentially poke into your client, you could just use regular thread. When you're doing client work, it's important to weigh your decisions based on aesthetic and comfort, because you don't want your stitches to show, and people like it when they can't see your stitches, but they like it a lot less if they can feel the stitches. That's that one done. I'm gonna time lapse the others. You get it.